Last March, one research post earned an account 15,000 new followers in a single day. 1.2 million views by his own count. The stock he wrote about tripled in 2 months. Now this week, that same engineer said something strange about his next pick. Stop waiting for contract announcements. It already has the contracts. What it has to prove now is shipments. And the shipping window is this quarter. Ticker in 3 minutes. First, the receipts. So who is this? The account is called PhotonCap. Roughly 60,000 followers, a research letter with over 10,000 subscribers, and a bio that tells you the angle. Seeing tech through a different wavelength. Here is the better question though. Why does an account that size move photonics stocks? Because this one is not a trader. He is an engineer, and his method is pure supply chain engineering. Map the optical value chain, find the layer where capacity physically cannot keep up, and get there before the market does. Now the receipt that made his name. Time-stamped on screen. March 11th, Chip Foundry Tower Semiconductor signed a development agreement with a tiny company called Lightwave Logic to build its plastic light switches, polymer modulators into Tower's silicon photonics platform. The next day, PhotonCap published the deep dive. The stock was around $6. 2 months later, it touched $18.71. Tripled. That is the post that pulled in the 15,000 followers. And here is what separates him from the hype accounts. Even after a win like that, his standard got tighter, not looser. One rule repeated all year. Demos do not pay. Contracts do not pay. Shipments pay. He grades every photonics story against that bar, including his own winners. Now his logic, one rung at a time. Rung 1. This AI build-out is not the dot-com bubble. The capex is funded out of earnings, not debt. His words, early innings, so the spending continues and the bottlenecks stay bottlenecks. Rung 2. The real constraint is not money. It is physics, power, heat, and distance. Copper wiring hits its limits, so AI clusters are being rewired with light. If you saw our last episode, you know this shortage already. From there, his map gets more precise. Inside the rack, optics get packaged right next to the chips. Between data centers, light carries data over 2,000 kilometers of fiber. Different links, same ingredient. Optical engines, the little modules that turn electrical signals into light. And here is his edge. Everyone watches the chip announcements. He watches the unglamorous steps behind them. Wafer probing, burn-in testing, packaging, capacity ramps. That is where photonics companies actually live or die, which is exactly why his rule exists. Announcements are easy. Volume is hard. So the bottom of the ladder is a specific kind of company. One that already has the customers, already has the cash, and now has to do the hard part. Ship. This quarter. The bottom rung. POET Technologies. Ticker POET. It designs optical engines, those light modules from the ladder, and builds them on its line in Malaysia. His red on it is the whole thesis in 2 lines. POET no longer needs another contract announcement. It needs to ship, and the ramp is scheduled for right now. The company's own plan, from its filings. Light source products in volume from the second quarter. 800G optical engines ramping in the third quarter. More than 30,000 engines shipped this year, on the road to a target of 1 million units a month by the end of 2027. And the war chest is real. $830 million raised over the past 12 months, with more cash than debt on the books. Now the part where we do our own homework. Here is what we checked ourselves. Confirmed, with the primary sources on screen. The Tower and Lightwave agreement is real. March 11th, in both companies' own announcement. A development agreement, to be precise. Development, not mass production. Which is exactly the distinction his rule is about. The Lightwave call is real. We pulled the chart ourselves. Around $6 at his write-up, $18.71 at the May peak. The POET ramp is real, and it is company guidance, not rumor. The third quarter engine ramp, the 30,000 unit plan, the million-a-month target, and the $830 million raised, all in Poet's own filings and shareholder updates this summer, and the research letter is real. Over 10,000 subscribers posted on the site itself. So what breaks this trade? The big one first, and it is his own rule turned against the pick. If the third quarter ramp slips or the shipment numbers do not show up in the quarterly reports, then Poet is just another demo story. The early warning. An earnings call that talks about engagements instead of engines shipped. Two smaller ones, quickly. Dilution. That $830 million was raised by selling stock, and hundreds of millions in warrants are still out there. And competition. The optics giants can build engines in-house, which would shrink the pond Poet swims in. And the root of it all. One number to watch. Engines shipped per quarter. Rising, the thesis is working. Flat, the story is stalling, no matter what the press releases say. Time for the channel scoreboard. Today's entry, PhotonCap. Poet, ticker POET, covered today at $7.60. One connection worth noting, he is also pounding the table on Sivers, the laser supplier from our last episode. Two different hunters, same trail. Every call we cover goes on the same board. Subscribe if you want to see who is actually right. Already trading on Ondo and X stocks. Through a broker, you trade market hours only. On-chain stocks trade 24/7, 365, straight from your wallet. We prefer on-chain for one reason above all. Your profits stay yours, untaxed, not financial advice. Do your own work on the price you pay.